I'm going to tell you a story about 4 important relationships with a parent, a teacher, a friend, and a soulmate. December 13th, 1981, I was 6 years old when the authorities introduced martial law in Poland. I remember that day like it was yesterday because it changed my life forever. I turned on my little radio with a green knob to listen to the top 10 hits music countdown. But instead, I heard a man speaking in a stern and monotonous way. I was really confused. At the same time, I saw that it had snowed, so I ran to the window. And although I was 6 years old, I could still feel this uncomfortable tension in the air. That day, martial law was introduced in Poland. In a communist country under martial law, we faced food shortages, censorship, power outages, and curfews. The police and the army would patrol the streets, making arrests and violently stifling peaceful protests. The grocery store shelves were often empty, except for vinegar and strawberry jam. We did the best we could. Some days we had what we called nothing soup. It was made of milk, egg white, and sugar. The meal prep innovation was next level. It wasn't that we wanted to leave, but stripped of our basic rights and constantly living in fear and uncertainty, we had to make a tough choice. My first relationship with a country was with the one of my motherland. Poland was my parent, teaching me resilience that no matter how tough things got, we kept going. It taught me the importance of family and collaboration. I saw that when people came together, they could withstand almost anything. Have you ever asked yourself, what would it take to leave your homeland? How would you feel if you had to leave everyone and everything behind, maybe never to return? Leaving comes with uncertainty, grief, courage, and a lot of just doing it, basically, because sometimes there's no plan B. At the age of 8, my world changed again. We boarded a train bound for Germany with 3 suitcases, 1 for each person. Crossing the border to West Germany was really intense and the stakes were high. I remember that the guards had these long mirrors and they were looking underneath the train. They wore long coats and some of them had patrol dogs. I remember feeling really scared. Across the border, Germany was a completely different world. I recall the first time I went to a grocery store, the aisles were just overflowing with food. And there was a distinct smell of chocolate and oranges. The smell of oranges to this day reminds me of that grocery store. It was in Germany that I faced for the first time the challenge of being voiceless. I didn't know the language, and I couldn't express myself. I was one of many refugee children trying to adapt in an international classroom with kids from Ethiopia, Hungary, and Turkey. I was with children from all over the world for the first time. And we were all the same. We were all starting over, learning a new culture and a new language. It was in Germany that I realized that a life of safety and abundance was a reality. I also learned pretty quickly that my parents and I were no longer the same people that left Poland. At the age of 10, we moved again, this time to the United States, Chicago. My first impression of the US was that everything was supersized, from the buildings to the cars down to the milk cartons. Once again, I had to adapt. I didn't know the language, but the neighborhood kids were so kind and persistent in coming and asking for me to go out and play. Slowly, I regained my voice, in part thanks to watching the movie Grease over and over again, and singing along to Kool and the Gang songs without understanding the lyrics, until one day I did. America was my friend. It taught me openness and understanding of various cultures, and that we are actually more alike than different. It gave me lifelong friendships and allowed me to grow up in acceptance. I discovered that relationships with countries and people shape us into who we are. It's not always a perfect match. Some countries are simply not meant for us, and others are exactly what we need. At the age of 22, I made a conscious decision to move back to Poland as a repat. I was chasing a nostalgic version of my homeland. What I discovered was a different country and a different reality from what I expected. Many of those who I had once loved were no longer there, and the Poland I left didn't exist anymore. It was a tough lesson in courageous vulnerability as I faced reverse culture shock and nostalgia. Repatriation is really strange. You go back to a culture that you think you know so well and that you will ease into, but there's just so much you don't understand. How can that be? Accepting help from others wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Those of you who have been on this journey know that we cannot do it alone. At 31, love brought me here to Denmark. Yay! I came as a love pat. Yes, we actually have a word for people who move for love. Denmark became my soulmate, teaching me the importance of living in the now, humility, curiosity, and the value of connection. My cultural identity is a quilt, stitched together with patches of Poland, Germany, US, and Denmark. Each patch represents nostalgia, resilience, and new beginnings. I have been a refugee, an immigrant, a repat, and a love pat. Yes, they are all labels, but they define my cultural identity. What does it mean to be an international? It means belonging to multiple places and sometimes to none. It means at times feeling displaced, lonely, and that we don't really fit in anywhere. It means being told that you have changed and feeling that we have changed. It means missing our families, culture, and the people that we used to be. It means being cultural chameleons, constantly learning and adapting to new cultures while trying to maintain our own cultural identity. it also means that we get to live in many different cultures and experience different languages, countries, and live with people from all over the world. It means that we have skills like innovative thinking, openness, curiosity, adaptability. We're excellent at packing up our lives and starting from scratch. And this is all because international life is beautifully complex. Leaving a country or even a city is not just a geographic shift. It is a profound act of transformation. You leave behind more than a place. You leave behind a version of yourself. You arrive in a new place with the hopes that you will find safety, belonging, new career opportunities, and hopefully friends. But this process that affects almost 300 million people who live outside of their homeland is also riddled with challenges, and it is emotionally demanding. If it were you, what would you hope for? You would hope that someone somewhere would welcome you with empathy and understanding. Empathy starts when we realize that in this global world, it could be any one of us packing up our lives into suitcases. By having cultural awareness and having the understanding that not everyone is like us and not everyone knows what we know, we start to bridge the cultural gaps. By having an understanding that we do come from different places and have different experiences, but we can agree to disagree, and we can look at the similarities and not see each other as threats. In my work as an interculturalist, I help internationals and locals navigate these difficult transitions. And moving is tough. The stress level is right up there with divorce and having kids. So if it were you, I would suggest that you start with a tip. I have a couple tips for you, but with this tip, that you have a goodbye plan. So moving requires leaving people and places behind. Grief and sadness are going to be a part of this journey. But when you have a goodbye plan, it is a tool that helps you acknowledge that. So be bold and innovative and throw yourself a goodbye party. Say goodbye to your favorite places in your city and in your neighborhood. And like tribal societies, have rituals for saying goodbye to your neighbors, your community, and your current home. We have to say goodbye in order to move on. Once you come to the new place, that's where meshing and adapting take place. Meshing and adapting doesn't mean assimilating. It means keeping your cultural identity and building on it. Adapting doesn't mean becoming a local. It means keeping who you are and being accepted as such. You don't have to be identical. Part of moving, especially moving abroad, is going through cultural adjustment phases. Now, not everyone will go through them in the same order, and each phase may also differ for each individual. It depends on what our experience of living abroad is and where we live currently. So, let's follow Amy. She is an expat currently living abroad. The first phase is honeymoon phase. Amy has got her rose-tinted glasses on. She finds everything exciting, new, and fun. She's exploring all the local places and joining clubs. Next phase, culture shock. We find Amy spending a lot of time on the expat Facebook groups. You know what happens there. There is lots of complaining. Amy is facing homesickness and frustration. She doesn't understand why everything is so different. Going to the doctor and networking are simply not the same as they were at home. Finally, we have adjustment phase. Amy's learning the local language, she's made some friends, and she has a job. The next one, adaptation. She feels comfortable in her host culture, she's fluent in the language, and she misses home and her family, but she also loves her life in her host culture. The final one may not be for everyone, repatriation. Amy is facing reverse culture shock, and she actually finds it difficult to adapt to her home culture. Once we've lived abroad, it can be difficult to go back. By having awareness and taking small actions, we can all make a difference. By welcoming an expat family on our street, inviting an international colleague to have a coffee at work, or simply including an international student in a conversation. It's realizing that adapting to a new culture is not just about the place we live in, but the relationships and who we become. It's the discovery that home is no longer a single dot on the map, but a quilt of connections, learnings, and experiences. Just like the 300 million people who no longer call their home home, because they could be me, and they could be you. Thank you.